How to stop negative energies from getting in. Level 1. Hello, I'm Fractal Future, and this is the Vanguard of Light. So we've got a really good one today. So the Vanguard of Light, it's about the upliftment of energy sensitive people. Your gifts are so critical right now and for the coming years. So it's about embracing those gifts, enhancing those gifts, and bringing back this information from the divine that's going to be here to lift everybody up. So everybody ascends. So we don't have a mass die-off, so to speak. So it is really critical. So let's get into it. How to stop negative energies from getting in. So first, couple of questions. How many people think there's negative energies in the world? Or negative forces, dark forces, any of that, right? Some would be yes, some would be no. Just kind of get a sense of like, oh, where am I at right now? Dark forces. Then the question is, are those dark forces here right now? Or like kind of out there sometime, or are they here right now? Listening to us. Engaging with us right now. Because it's kind of interesting with like every major religion talks about dark forces, but yet no one talks about dark forces. There's not like, what do you do when the dark forces are on you, or how to recognize the dark forces, or what's the dark forces and what's you, and how do you separate the two? There's not really much talk about that. So let's have a little conversation about that. Next, go into like how many people feel they are a vanguard of light, they're a being of light. At least they were born as a being of light. Any of those? Yeses, yes, 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 yes. Or think of a time when you felt guided, like you felt that. Maybe you don't have that consistently all the time, but at one point in time you felt like, hey, wait a second. There's something more going on. There's something more to me going on. And then even flash back to like, think of a baby. Doesn't have to be you. Think of another person's baby, and a baby comes in. Doesn't they seem like they're a being of light? Something magical? Infinite potential? But think we're all were that. We all came in that way. But yet, we don't necessarily have that feeling and experience in the exact moment. How did that happen? Because if we came in as a being of light, where did the darkness come from? The dark forces. We came into a lot of dark. We learned, we were taught, we were tricked into buying and absorbing this darkness, to where now we think like our current level is like, that's the being of light level. Like that current level is like, okay, well, that's where I'm at. You know, if I'll do all this stuff to get better, but we're not necessarily actively thinking of like, or like how many people are actively thinking like, wait a second, if I'm a being of light, there must be something seriously inverting me. For me not to be, experiencing a way more blissful place. And maybe that's more true, that there has to be some serious inversions going on. Because if we come in as a bright being of light, what's going on? And the big thing is that we're tricked into believing, and that's how it gets into us. It gets in. And all with like these belief systems and all the stuff that we pick up, like kind of as a physical body to survive in our family unit, in our society, to be adopted in that. We kind of got to take on all these limitations, but those limitations are these dark energies. These dark forces are behind this indoctrination of these limitations. So removing limitations is freeing yourself from these dark forces. So has anybody had a change on their thought of dark forces out there, and more, maybe there's some dark forces around, maybe even some that I've adopted that are inside of me, and that's what's pulling me down. And then instead of adopting it as like, okay, these dark forces are mine, and being tricked into that and thinking like, okay, where I'm at is where I'm at, and that's me, and that maybe it's not, maybe that there's just dark forces that are inside, but they're separate from you. I can't ever take you on, and you can shed them and then start being liberated and enlightening, and like start achieving and seeing the dreams that you want to come manifest without like this grind to push you to be something else, as opposed to peel off the stuff that's not yours. So Then that's a lot where the clearings come in to like kind of recenter and get back to this great light inside. But let's talk about the dark forces like that are here and now and how they can get in, and we invite them in like the present time. Because I get it. As you're a kid, you're coming in, new physical body, you're a big sponge and you're like picking it up from other people. But what about the now time? How they're getting in? And I'm going to show you like a little sneaky way in which they do this. How many people want to hear that? Want to hear the sneaky way that they're getting in right now? Because it causes a lot of angst. And doesn't have to. So the first thing comes from this kind of belief that like if you're thinking it in your head, it's yours. Like if you got a thought in your head, it's your thought. Spoiler alert, it's not necessarily your thought. There's a lot of thoughts that you have in your head that aren't yours, that literally are not yours. Especially empaths will pick up a ton of thoughts and feelings that aren't theirs. And we all have a level of empathability, and the more you're awakened, the deeper that goes. So a lot of times you'll be picking them up, and they're not even your thoughts. I mean, they're just not even yours. You're just picking them up. You know, it's kind of like watching a TV show and thinking that you, when it's not. So that's the first thing, is that like this kind of we're indoctrinated, like, oh, if it's in your head, it's your thought, right? And that's not necessarily true. So that's one way in which this darkness, like current present time darkness, especially when you're starting to up level, will get in and get invited in, so to speak. So like send in a thought. I'll give you a thought of like, oh, you know, you're not this, you're not that, this is wrong, this is bad, right? You know, and kind of like that negative self-talk and stuff like that. But slightly different, because it won't be the negative self-talk that you're used to, right? And that's kind of still being generated by this dark inside. We're talking about the outside now. This is just level 1, which is it's not basic. It's just the level 1. It gets deeper going on the inside. But the outside, you'll kind of get these thoughts. And the first is just to challenge them, because are they you? Not like, are they you being of light? Anything that you can push away that's not your being of light, that's even better. Take it to the next level anytime you can. But I'm talking, it's not even consistent with the negative thoughts that you have. You know, to where you're like, oh, well, you're not this, and this is not going to happen, and this isn't going to go this way, and it's not. And even if it's already happening, it's kind of like, not so much over the top, but like just counterintuitive if you actually take a moment, which is really weird for like, you know, energy sensitive, like, has break from the emotions, and let's just apply a little bit of logic. You know, how many people want to apply a little bit of logic? Yes, no. This is where logic comes in. Like, it does have a super purpose. And it's kind of look at the thought that came in and be like, wait a second. Is this logically what I normally kind of stress on? You know, because we got insecurities. We all have them, right? But is this like one of my insecurities? You know, is this kind of something how I stress about? Because you kind of got to get a model of like, how do I normally stress? Because that's where we're going to lift, right? But then you got to look at these things that aren't the way you normally stress about things. They're not in like your current pattern or your current stuckness. They're just new ones. And those are the ones that actually are outside of you. And those are the ones that you can reject very easily by just realizing that, applying that logic and be like, wait a second, I don't normally stress like this. I don't normally get concerned about these kind of things. This doesn't normally bother me, but it's showing up as it is, and you realize, wait a second, this is probably external dark forces. I push it away. Just push it away, be like, nope, not letting you in. And you'll feel a lightning just by doing like, nope, not letting you in. Because those ones aren't actually inside, so there's not something to process. But that's how they trick you. Because they make it like it's yours, and then we go into like how to refute it, right? It's like, well, you're just so this, right? And you're like, well, no, I'm not. I'm not that way. Let me list, right? You list the ways and you prove, like, kind of build yourself up of like, I'm not like that. I'm not like this. I'm not like that, right? And so that like kind of makes you feel like, okay, I pushed it back a bit, but it allowed it to get in. Because you refuted it. So you accepted it as like, okay, this is something that I got to take in. And then I got to look at it and be like, okay, yeah, let me refute that, right? And kind of like get rid of it. But now it's got a toehold of like something that you accept as something that you would push against. Does that make sense? Like, let me see if I can give an example of like say you just read books. You're just a book reader. I read books all the time, right? And you get the thought of like, you watch too much TV, right? And then you kind of refute that of like, I watch too much TV. You're like, no, I read books and I haven't watched TV and did it. I mean, I might have passed the TV, but I wasn't really watching it and did it. And you see how that thought gets in to where you're refuting it, as opposed to like, you know, you watch TV, you watch too much TV. Like, watch too much TV? What? I'm a book reader. I don't watch TV. That's not mine. And you get rid of it that simply. And it's a really great practice to start challenging the thoughts in your head. Because first of all, I mean, one is like they're all yours, right? And you kind of unwind how they are, but a majority of them, I would guess, are not yours. So you can even unwind. You don't even have to unwind them. So you get in there, like if you're a book reader that tells you to watch too much TV, like, not my thought. Let that one go. Because that's going to up your empathing abilities to realize what's yours, what's not yours. But also dark forces stuff to where you start recognizing, no, that's not mine. Nope, not mine. Because it'll also get you with things like you have conquered, right? Or insecure you've conquered, and it throws it back in of like, oh, you're afraid of that, right? And you're like, oh man, gosh, it's back. Oh, I feel bad about that. Okay, gotta pump myself. But that's because it tricked you to get in. Because you might have already overcome that. And it says like, oh, well, you're this, and you just like, I kind of catch it and logically look like, no, I think I conquered that one. And you push it right back. So that's kind of a level 1 of how to start pushing back these dark forces. And let's review. So your thoughts aren't necessarily all yours. And that's a good thing, you know, especially the darker ones. Be like, I'm not sure that's mine, you know. And it could be something dark inside, but still it's separated. It'd be like, well, I might have some darkness inside and it's creating that thought. But it's not necessarily mine, right? Or just outside, like, yeah, not mine. Not in my current set of struggles. So that thought's not mine. Push it away. So that's a review of like, okay, that thought's not mine, right? But then also kind of a realization of like, that maybe these dark forces are kind of like a sea of them, and we're all around them. It doesn't mean that we're subjected to them or, oh, it's this horrible bad and stuff like that. But it's about being awake of like, okay, wait a second. If the thoughts are coming in, maybe it's because of the sea of dark, and I don't have to take them. I can be a light. I don't need to be diminished. I'll, you know, be my bright light, you know, and kind of reinforce it like, okay, I'm going to see a dark. I will be a bright light, you know, and different levels of dark, but I will be a bright light. So not a negative of like, oh no, I'm in the sea of dark. No, I'm a bright light. I change the darkness, right? And as I do that, one of the key ways is not buying into any of the stuff that's coming in or even bubbling up. Because whether it's either external or bubbling up internal, being able to challenge that and being looking at like, hey, wait a second, is it something I've triumphed or is it something just external? So it's kind of just to start building the discernment, and stay here on this channel. We'll subscribe because we'll be giving a lot of tools to actually start pulling out the darkness, also better defend of what is coming in, because it is, you know, a lot of work. You got a lot of thoughts coming in and being like, okay, no. That's work too, a way to be like, block that so you can get more focus on, okay, what's inside to push out. So that's what we have in here on this channel. So if you felt that you've gotten some new distinctions, please throw me down a comment, new realizations of like, hey, wow, I didn't see it that way, or oh, that's something new. Also, if you liked it, throw me a like. If you'd like to get more of this content, please subscribe. And if you want to go a little deeper, we do have a course. I probably put the link here for this one. It's a safety course, but it starts unwinding some of this darkness, some of these, I guess, tricks that were played as to one about your divine safety, also about how you maintain, you know, physical safety, but then also like claiming core gifts of like being inherently lovable, being inherently worthy, and inherently matter. Of those where they got inverted and tricked. So check out the link in the bottom for that. And until we talk again, have a blessed day or a blessed night.